Hey friends, welcome back to Healthy in Heart. I'm Angel and I'm so glad you're joining me for my week 22 Mounjaro Tirzepatide update. If you're new here, I share weekly progress on my weight loss journey, blood sugar management, and overall health data. So be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Today we're diving into my personal progress update, weight, inches, non-scale victories, and my monthly body composition report. Any side effects or dosage adjustments, what I've been eating and how it's been going, exercise and activity notes, medication insights, plus any community frequently asked questions, motivation, and mindset tips to keep us all going strong. So let's get to it. First, let's look at my monthly stats. My current Tirzepatide dose is 8.5 milligrams, and I'm going to keep it the same. I'm going to talk to the doctor to keep it the same for next month because I'm actually finally feeling some appetite suppression with this dose, and that's a good thing. And the side effects aren't that bad. The pounds I've lost this month, I went from 237.9 down to 237.1, so 0.8 pounds, but that is still 1.1 pounds higher than I was when I started taking Tirzepatide in January, and I got the bad advice about the calories. So anyway, I'll get into that a little bit more later. Total pounds lost so far is 68.9. So it was the end of the month and I did my body measurements, and so this is interesting. My total total inches lost this month was actually a gain of 2 inches. But here's where it's interesting. My chest went down 1/2 inch. My waist went down 1/2 inch. My hips went up 1 inch, and my thighs went down 1/4 inch. Now I measure more than just those 4 measurements, but overall I had a 2-inch gain. So we're going to talk a little more about that later, about the shifting of your inches when you're losing weight. My hip to waist to hip ratio also dropped by 0.3 this month. So you may be wondering, how can I lose inches at my chest and my waist but gain 1 inch at my hips? Remember, body measurements, like your weight loss, isn't always linear. Hormones, water retention, shifting muscle, they all play a role. So while my waist is getting smaller, my hips can still hold on to water and muscle differently. The net effect is still positive. I'm down nearly 1 pound and a couple inches where it counts. So I also track my waist to hip ratio, and because it's an important indicator of where fat is stored, unlike the BMI alone. The waist to hip ratio tells us if we're carrying more fat around our abdomen, which I can look at myself and obviously tell that, which is linked to higher risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. I don't have the heart disease or cancer, but I'm trying to prevent those. Also trying to reverse the type 2 diabetes. So how do you do it? You measure your waist at the narrowest point, usually just above the belly button. And then you measure your hips at the widest point, which is around the fullest part of your buttocks. And then you divide the waist measurement by the hip measurement. For example, if your waist is 32 inches and your hips are 40 inches, your waist to hip ratio is 0.80. According to the World Health Organization, a healthy waist to hip ratio is less than or equal to 0.85 for women and less than or equal to 0.90 for men. So this month, mine dropped by 0.03. So that's another win in my book. So let me confess, I absolutely love my RunSTAR scale. I printed out my body composition report on May 23rd when I got the scale, and I began, and again a week later on June 1st, because I want to start measuring month to month to compare changes. And I'm going to be comparing, you know, 1 month to the next, to from here out, to see what changes have occurred in my body. But here's what I've learned in 1 week. My body score, which is right here on your body composition report, my body score went from 82 out of 100 to 89 out of 100. And just keep in mind that muscular people can actually get a score over 100. My body age dropped from 51 to 49. Woohoo! That's actually 1 year younger than I actually am. So that's exciting. My basal metabolic rate, which is the reason that I got the scale, increased from 1,942 to 2,007 calories. That is quite a jump in how many calories I'm burning. That means that my body is burning more energy at rest, so I can eat a little bit more while still losing weight. Muscle mass and hydration. Even though the scale barely budged, I gained muscle and improved hydration in just 1 week. That's huge, because sometimes you do all the things and the scale won't move, but your body composition is still shifting in a positive direction, which I also saw in my body measurements. And I'm just going to be honest, I need this kind of feedback. Seeing that my body composition is improving keeps me motivated when the number on the scale moves so slowly. And here's why I love the RunSTAR. It estimates muscle mass, body fat, bone density, and water percentage. It even gives a more accurate body BMR, basal metabolic rate, than a generic formula, which is what nutritionists and dietitians use, which is why I ended up gaining weight at the start, because the nutritionist told me that I needed to eat 1,941 calories. Well, that's over the amount of calories that I was burning in a day. Obviously, no wonder I gained weight. So, and they just use a generic scale. And the reason that can be different is because they're not taking into account, they may overestimate how many calories you're burning when your exercise or your activity level, but it can also not take into effect the damage that you've done to your body through years of dieting. Years of dieting can reduce your basal metabolic rate. So anyway, with that information, which is also confirmed with the caliber, I use the caliber and it's just a mask that you wear on your face for half an hour in the mornings before you eat, while you're at rest, and it measures your body basal metabolic rate via indirect calorimetry. But that's a fancy, expensive test. But the good part with having the caliber is you can measure it over and over again, which I do once a week. But the reason I got it is because there's no place within 200 miles around here that actually does the indirect calorimetry, which is because I had a feeling, like your intuition, I had a feeling that I was not burning as many calories as the dietitian told me I was, and that I needed to eat less to actually be in a calorie deficit. And you have to have a calorie deficit to lose weight. You cannot out-exercise too many calories. Anyway, I use the caliber to measure my basal metabolic rate via indirect calorimetry. It's a little expensive. It is. But the RunSTAR scale uses 8 electrodes, and it gives me a similar basal metabolic rate data for a fraction of the cost. And for most of us, that's more than enough. I'll put both links in the description below. RunSTAR is an affiliate link, and Caliber, for anyone who wants the deeper dive, is not. But just to let you know, the Caliber will actually, you can also use it for they have other protocols to use it for, like you can use it while you're exercising to find out how many calories you're burning, and just there's a bunch of other data and other things, other information that it can give you. So while it is expensive, maybe that's something you want to invest in. I did, but more for the basal metabolic rate, because I had a feeling that the calorie goal my nutritionist gave me, the dietitian at Mochi gave me, was just too much. And I got similar results from entering my own information in the formula that you can access online. So I just had a feeling that I was burning less calories than what that says. So anyway, on to my weekly stat comparison. So my Tirzepatide dose is 8.5 milligrams this week again. And like I said, I want to keep it the same. My weight went from 238.1 to 237.3, which is a loss of 0.8 pounds. My fasting blood sugar dropped from 152 to 142, which is a 10 milligram per deciliter drop, which is good. The DMI, which is basically, it's kind of like your hemoglobin A1C measurement. They just do an estimate of what your blood sugar is running. And so the DMI for my sugar was still 6.6. It takes a lot longer for that one to adjust as it does with your A1C, because it's going back for 3 to 4 months of data. The DMI for this CGM, though, I can actually view what it's running per week, 14 days, 30 days, 3 months, that kind of thing. So for the last 7 days, my CGM DMI from the Dexcom G7 has dropped from 6.9 to 6.7, which is a drop of 0.2, which is good. My 7-day glucose average, which is why the continuous glucose monitor is invaluable, because it tells you so much information. My 7-day glucose average is 152. It was 152 last week, and it dropped to 140 this week. So that's a drop of 12 milligrams per deciliter. And my percent of time in range has increased, which also is a good thing, from 83% last week to 94% this week. That's an increase of 11%. So I'm down nearly a pound and saw a significant drop in both fasting blood sugar and continuous glucose and average blood sugar readings on the continuous glucose monitor. My time in range shot up from 83% to 94%, which is huge for my A1C goals. I mean, that's a really good improvement. It's not the 99% that I had a while back, but it's getting there. I did have a non-scale victory. Over the past 2 weeks, my blood pressure has dropped. It was running in the 120s over 70s, but the last 2 weeks it has dropped to where it's running between 106 to 118 on the top and 57 to 69 on the bottom. I'm having to use care when getting up or turning around because I've had a few instances where I've gotten dizzy and everything started to haze out. So I will be talking with my doctor about that next week. I believe that means there will be a blood pressure medication reduction in my near future. Maybe not next week, but perhaps soon. So let's talk about side effects. I'm still getting some belching. Definitely not as much as last week, thankfully. But especially if I eat higher fat meals. The good news, there was no sulfur belches this week. I did experience mild morning nausea most days, but on Monday morning, it hit me so hard. I felt like I might vomit. Mouth-watering, cold sweats, the whole 9 yards. I braced myself and I took measurements. I was prepared just in case I did, but I took slow, deep breaths, and thankfully it passed in about 10 minutes. And that was the worst I've ever felt on Mounjaro so far. I was surprised also that it flared up right as the dose peaked and started to decline. So what's been helping? More water. Staying hydrated actually reduces nausea for me, and keeping my dietary fat below 10 milligrams per meal helps my digestion to stay on track. Also, I have found a correlation between having a snack that has added sugar in it and a lot of belching and gas. So I'm going to adjust my diet to stop at that. And what that was just rice cakes with some strawberry jelly on top. So no more of that. But you know, it's all data, and you take that data and you adjust. So no dose changes this week. I'm still at 8.5. I'll keep monitoring and check in with my doctor if the dizziness from the low blood pressure persists. So here's what I ate this week. Breakfast was yogurt and fruit, usually yogurt and banana, yogurt and berries, or yogurt and melon, mixed melons. And then I also had grapes one morning. And I just can't eat much in the morning because my appetite is so low first thing in the morning. I can't eat much. Lunch is a chocolate, cherry, kale, or spinach smoothie, which is so good. I'll share that recipe next Wednesday, so stay tuned. Dinner was not your grandma's casserole, and oh my gosh, it went live on my website, and I posted a cooking video here on YouTube this morning. You guys, this recipe is a keeper. Like, my family has eaten it for 2 weeks in a row. My daughter's not tired of eating it. My husband's not tired of eating it. He actually told me yesterday, it's okay if you want to have that again this week because I really like it. So we're having it for dinner again next week. And my body likes it. So, you know, it's a winner all around. Just one caveat. Too much cheese on that casserole triggers nausea for me. So I had to remind my husband when he reheated it, more cheese is not better, babe. At least in my case, it's not. So this week I bumped up my walking speed just a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean like 0.1. And I'm also using resistance bands for upper body strengthening. Mounjaro hasn't really affected my motivation or to exercise yet. I'm hoping it doesn't, unless it increases my motivation. I'm still doing my 45-minute to an hour walk 6 days a week. No major exercise breakthroughs, but I'm staying consistent, and consistency is key. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words today. Compared to previous weeks, I'm seeing better blood sugar control and slightly faster weight loss. My body composition shifts are encouraging, even if the scale isn't dropping dramatically every week. I didn't get any new questions in the comments this week. So whether it's about diet tweaks, medication management, or how to handle side effects, ask any questions you have in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer next week. So I know it's not easy to stay motivated. Some weeks the scale barely moves or moves in the opposite direction. Other weeks you have side effects that feel overwhelming, but remember, every single data point from body composition to time and range to inch loss is a step forward. If you're feeling discouraged today, I want you to remember, celebrate the non-scale victories like lower blood pressure, better mood, improved strength. Focus on long-term trends, not hourly, daily, or even weekly fluctuations. Give yourself credit for consistency. Even logging your meals and walking 3 times a week is progress. You've got this. All right, friends, let's wrap up my week 22 Mounjaro update. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below with your questions, and don't forget to subscribe for next week's update. If you're curious about the RunSTAR scale or want to learn more about the caliber indirect calorimetry device, Check the links in the description. I rely on those tools to stay informed and motivated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Until then, be kind to yourself. Stay hydrated and keep chasing healthy in heart, mind, body, and soul. Until next time, shalom.